actually driving right up within about 300 or 400 metres of the slip and actually walking out and walking over and having a look at it.
This started off, virtually we had a one of those earth tremors back in, when was that? About July, May, July, something like that. And then we had 50 mils of rain a couple of days later. And we started off with a tiny little crack just here and another little crack over the other end there. And we thought we had two small landslips. And then about 2 weeks later, we had another major rain event, probably another 40 mils, and the two cracks joined up. They went all the way up the top there, and we thought, oh gee, we hope this doesn't go, this is going to be trouble. And it stayed there for about another 2 weeks, and then we had another 30 mils, and then all of a sudden I looked out from the cowshed and the whole hill had gone. And from our place you can see a lot easier because there's a whole trail of dirt that's gone right down to the creek down below here, and you know, it's just made a mess of the whole hill. Like, it's probably 4, maybe 5 hectares here that, you know, was well, it's not flat, but it was reasonable before, you know. Now we've just got all these huge cracks where it's made, you know, cattle going along here impossible. And, you know, a bit dangerous for any animals in here as far as, you know, getting their legs caught in the cracks and, you know, breaking legs and stuff. So we've sort of had to manage this a little bit differently. We've put young stock in here because they're a little bit lighter, a bit more flexible, so that they can graze it until we figure out what to do with all this.
If we actually think of the process, just go back one step. This thing had a slip surface, which would have been from where the fellow in the dark shirt is, a bit further down, and because it couldn't push itself into the valley, it's done a sort of a flip up. So that's what we call the rotational slip.
So is that bit?
That's right. That's why it's jumped up in the air, because it couldn't go into the valley, but it just did that instead. So it's just done like a tilt, which is called the rotational failure. That's a very good example of that. But there must have been a little point of weakness in there somewhere that grew big enough to allow the failure plane to actually get mobile. And how is that failure plane fed? Because I think almost certainly it'll be water lubricated, if we want to use that term. Where did the water come from? Yes, a very good question. And certainly I don't think it ran over the surface and ran in. And I don't think it's because of the rainfall just coming in on the surface and filling up. There's something happening with the underlying rock material, I suspect. Because I suppose the question that came from Ian James's, let's bring it across here too, is this stable now? Is it more or less stable than it was before it slipped? So, a little less now. What do you think?
That's too close to the end.
Andy?
I think if we get another wet winter and all the water runs down into these cracks, I think the potential for it to end up in the reservoir is pretty much right, I think.
There are a number of different possibilities for this, okay? Starting up the top, we could do nothing again. We've got a farmer over at Wild Dog Valley that does nothing. As long as it doesn't affect his boundary fence, he just accepts it. And we've got another farmer over in that direction that actually does something, in that he does aerial seeding with deep-rooted perennial pasture species like cocksfoot, etc., done by a plane, and that's the way that he gets out of it. Okay, another option is to fence it off and put it in trees completely.